What's up, YouTube? It's Team APS, and we're asking, how much are you willing to spend on Yu-Gi-Oh cards?
Let's talk about it. So, I thought that this would be actually a really good topic because a lot of people have gave us suggestions about talk about how much you ever spent on a Yu-Gi-Oh card, or how do you decide what's too much to spend for a deck, or what's the most regretted purchase you've ever made in this game.
Whew.
So, yeah. So, funny enough, I got Alec today because he's probably, I guess between maybe at least the two of us, spent probably the most amount of money on cards.
Yeah, I can be a little, ever since I got this job, I've been a little careless, I don't know.
Now, that said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, and that's one of the things we'll probably be talking about today.
That's true. Spending money doesn't make you a bad guy. It makes you a rich guy.
So, maybe, yeah. Oh, no.
But,
okay, so the first major point then, I guess. First major point. Yu-Gi-Oh is expensive, but
no doubt.
I've always argued you get the choice of how much you want to spend on Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh does not force you, however much you might think so, does not force you to buy the cards.
You don't gotta drop 300. You don't have to do it. You don't have to.
You can. There's this continuum of if you want better decks, you have to pay more, but you can always pay less and just not get as good of a deck. And you might complain about it and say it's unfair, but that's how it goes.
This is America. Capitalism, baby.
Yeah, so what for you at least was the point where you decided to invest more? Why did you I'm interviewing I'm a therapist.
Well, for the longest time I only played non-meta decks.
Tell me more.
And they weren't really hard to build. But that was when I was really just I would just make something out of what I had. But then I wanted to actually make complete non-meta decks. So then I started buying the cards for those. They were really cheap. They're not really meta. But that was the taste of buying cards. But I was still on the low end of buying cards. I didn't even want to spend on a card that was $5.
So you say the taste,
because at that point, you're not thinking about the price of the card too much, because you're only spending cents on the card, maybe $1. $1 on a card was expensive at the time, and it was like a gateway. So spending money's not bad. I'm not spending a whole lot. No big deal.
Yeah, because you're just getting little.
So
cards
then the upper limit of how much I was willing to spend $5 on the card. Then I started playing more and more Yu-Gi-Oh, and these meta decks were coming out, and I wanted to play them. Then
sorry.
I guess for one of the main ones I remember was when I was really starting to get into buying cards. That was Shaddolls were just coming out in the NBA.
I think that something kind of to go off of what you'd said is, and that was just to sound like a drug addiction, and maybe it is, but
fix, man.
I feel once you bought that first card, you see how buying is an instant way to just skip the trading or pulling it from the pack process. Because as kids, we just got packs from the store. Oh, mom, buy me a pack or whatever.
Rip it open.
Save up your money and
get your trash pulls. Commons.
But then you realize if I could just buy these cards, I don't have to pull them, or I don't have to bother trading for them. I can just.
There's no chance.
Yeah, I just give my money and the cards come to me. You know what I mean? It saves you that middleman step. And so once you taste it once, where it's this is a fast way to complete decks, then you remember all those decks you never got to build. Yeah. And now I can just buy the cards online, right?
Yeah, I built so many decks during that phase. I built UA. I built a lot of decks just because they were cheap, easy to do.
You can build them in mass.
I would spend maybe $15 and bam, the deck is done.
Yeah, and then also I think a big part of where the price comes from is the staples.
Staples were the hardest part about it.
A relevant example now, the Pot of Desires story. You fought a long time before you caved.
I did, but
you have a confession. You have a confession
yeah.
Here?
Okay. So
shameful.
I have lots and lots of decks, especially tier 2 and 3 decks. Well, the thing that you would be surprised. A lot of times, I stop playing a deck because I don't feel like I'm playing it optimally anymore, or I'm not getting the most out of it. So once Pot of Desires was announced, it made a lot of my decks feel incomplete, because I knew that this deck could be played a bit better if I had Pot of Desires.
Yeah.
But I was still holding off because the way you value how much you want to spend on cards. Basically, you take your most expensive card and you ask yourself, would I buy this again?
That's a good
So, at the time, my most expensive card was maybe $30. Did I buy that card? I don't remember if I bought it, but that's how much it was worth. And I asked myself, would I buy it again? I said yes, but I couldn't see myself buying like a $40 card. But as time went on, I was buying more and more expensive cards.
And you feel like you're getting limited by a lack of having a certain card.
And I'll definitely go ahead and say it. You know what was really broke me? It was Blue Eyes Dark Magician.
When we were building those for those theme duels.
Spent a lot of money on those.
Yeah, ooh, those hurt.
And that made my upper limit a lot higher. Almost to the price of Apollo Desires. It was when Triple D's came out.
Yeah, and you built it.
I built the deck, and I was dissatisfied. I was like, man.
You realize it just helps that bit more.
It's like an extra. I looked up statistics. People were doing testing the probability of how it affects your deck, of the chances of banishing all 3 copies of a crucial card.
And being a combo deck, you want just pieces are the most important thing. Just getting the pieces.
And then I rationalized it like, well, I could put it in. I don't have to put it in one deck. I can put it in all these other decks. They instantly become better. There's some decks that weren't playable before become playable just for having this card. And I was like, well, in a way, it pays for itself at that point because then it's going all kind of things as long as it doesn't get banned. And I was another worry. I was scared it might get hit.
So that being said, how much would you say, in just very rough numbers, are you willing to spend at max on a card?
Okay, a single card.
Yeah, or like a play set, something like that.
Okay.
You can have stipulations.
Well,
I mean, I guess in theory, $60 or something. That's about
on a single card, I could spend $60, but that tends to be like an extra card or something.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a play set, I'm willing to hit. I have to say about what 120 because I spent 40 a piece on something.
I think that the stipulation would just be that it has to be a staple for me. I'm not opposed to spending like in the past when I was like maybe a more competitive player. I didn't buy much. I didn't have much money, but like I feel like I was willing to spend $30 or $40 on a card like. But only if it was like a staple and it would, carry over. I could never do it with a card like, say, Zodiac,
Barrage.
Rod Bull, or Barrage or something because
$99, man.
Because just like time will pass. Like in 6 months, Zodiacs aren't going to be relevant. I promise. So it's easier to buy like Desires or Solemn Strike for me.
The more generic. Now I would buy a card I felt that was I will buy just honestly I have less stipulations than you do. It's about any card that if I want it bad enough, I'll buy it.
Yeah, you'll rarity pump up, like, right? You'll get like Ulti Ancient Gear.
I will push, yeah. I will. If it's more of a sentimental thing, I'll
like
do
Ancient
it, man.
Gears, right?
Yeah, like gadgets and Ancient Gears. I've told you multiple times I love gadgets. I spent the money for ultra rare gadgets. I do it again because once again I don't know where my ultra rare gadgets went. I have no idea. So would I buy them again? Yes.
Yeah, I agree. There are cards like that.
I bought ultimate rare. Ancient Gear Gold.
Yeah, because he's getting support. So
he's getting support. It was one of my favorite decks growing up. I went ahead and got an ultimate rare copy. Even though people were putting the price up higher and higher, they knew people would want it. I did it because the price didn't matter to me. It was more sentimental.
Now, a quick left field turn here. What advice do we offer to people who almost kind of have a spending problem? Because I think that the difference between maybe us and others is that ability to balance the budgeting. He might be saying he's spending a lot of money on cards, and this goes for also Calvin and Chris and Sherlock. They all will get these cards, but
I still pay my rent though.
But yeah, that's actually the thing. There is a healthy way to purchase these Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I've seen far too many people at card shops really get into this vicious cycle of like neglecting rent, neglecting like family or like girlfriends or boyfriends.
Kids might not be able to eat.
Or like neglecting even like work or something so that they can buy these cards. I'm not joking. I've seen people be like, I just need to get this deck, and they'll neglect their actual real life obligations, phone bill or something. And then they'll find themselves having to like sell everything all at once. Like, guys, I just gotta sell all my stuff. I gotta pay my rent, And I kind of hate it because whenever they do that, they always act like they're being mature. Like, yeah, priorities, man. Rent calls. Money talks. I gotta sell my stuff.
Money.
It's like you know what you did, and then after they pay their rent, they'll still be like trying to get back into it. So I think the key takeaway is only buy this, like spend this much money on cards if you can afford it. Like if you've got your other
disposable income, people.
Right.
That's the income you have after you've paid for the necessities.
Yeah, the important stuff, because that's it. It really is. Yu-Gi-Oh can get pricey, and it can feel addictive. That's kind of what we've said, but you know, like priorities come first. Be smart.
Take care of yourself.
If you know you can't. The worst I think I ever saw was at locals when like people would not get food at locals. You know, like, cause you know, most locals, at least I know in my experience,
chips and stuff.
Well, you'll show up and like usually it's kind of an almost all day experience. That's kind of how it was. Like you'd show up around noon, and sometimes we'd be there till like 6 or 7 if it's a Saturday and you didn't have anything else to do. And there's always like, you know, some pizza place next door, a Chinese place, or a Subway nearby. And usually people would get food, but there were days where I'd see people like, rather than spend money to get lunch, they would rationalize, I can get this Yu-Gi-Oh card instead.
I mean, why should I eat? I can eat my madolches.
And there were kids, and their parents would give them money. Like, you know, their parents would drop them off at the local card shop and give them like $10, and that's just their money for food. And they would spend it on cards instead. And I get it, like they're kids, they're young, they don't get it. But there would also be like adults who would do that, where like they just have only money to eat that day, but they'd spend it on cards they wouldn't eat. And that sounds like some drug addiction or something, but that's actually true. Like, I've met people like that.
Yeah, money in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's a kind of a vicious cycle. But it's only a cycle if you let it be. You gotta understand, first you have to understand how you are with money. I know I'm quick to spend money really, really fast. So I always say, when you decide you want to purchase a card, take a day and sleep on it. Most of the time, you'll find you won't want the card anymore by the time you wake up.
Yeah. So, I guess just wrapping it up then. 3 major takeaways. The first, you get to choose how much you spend on this game.
Only you can choose how much you spend on this game.
Wasn't that what, like the Fire Bear thing or something?
Yeah, Smokey the Bear.
Smokey Bear. Yeah, you can either choose to like spend a lot and do well, you know, get a Zodiac deck, or spend not so much and play Shino Birds or something. Either way is fine. Just remember that like there's a
say that name.
there's a continuum. Second thing is set a limit on how much you're willing to spend max. Don't break it.
Yeah, don't go and buy Minerva if you know you have to go get your car fixed tomorrow.
That's depressing to think about.
What, Paul? It's only $3,000. People spend that all the time on houses.
We'll just sell our car. It'll be fine. And then the third thing is make sure you have your bills paid. Like, for real, you know? Make sure this is budgeted out.
I mean, do you really need AC if you're warmed by the heart of the cards?
Yeah, and it almost sounds like we're joking, but it's funny because we're not. Like, there are people who will neglect bills. There are people who will neglect significant others, family members, like just, you know, whatever.
You know, if your house has enough windows, you don't need to pay your light bill, so...
Yeah, as long as you can see enough of the card text to play. But yeah, so that's the video. What we want to know is, what are your Yu-Gi-Oh money stories? What's the most you've ever spent? What is your process for, you know, deciding how much you will pay for these cards, and like, you know, what's your value system with that?
And if you don't do that, what have you given up to buy cards? Like, have you not eaten? Have you gotten your lights cut off?
Tell us more about that.
Was that the day you bought that Minerva the last time you saw your child?
Or what's like the worst thing you've ever seen? You know, at a card shop, the worst you've ever seen somebody like pay or sacrifice in order to get a card? Because I've seen many a story. That's the video. We hope you guys liked it. Thumbs up if you did, subs if you loved it, and follow us on social media and everything else. Check out sponsor stuff down in the description. And without further ado,
set one and we'll end our turn.